Thank you. Just a quick announcement for all of you who probably got my email and heard the announcement. At the end of today's presentation, we'll have you all, those of you wearing your t-shirts, I know the class officers want to get together and take a photo. We could maybe see if we could do it in here, change the lighting, or maybe go in the cafeteria. But it's such a large group of you who wore your shirts today, and it's great. So going to get a picture of that at the end of the presentation. So welcome. I'd like to start off by complimenting all of you, class of 2016 and beyond, for your efforts. Most recently, the past couple of nights with boys and girls basketball, but overall, the course of the year, the amount of support that you all lend to extracurricular activities, performances, athletic teams by showing up and supporting in a positive way. It really, as the principal of the school, it means a lot to me. And I'm so impressed by having you all come out. This high school is a special place because of what you do and your efforts. And the way that you support one another and support our core values is something that I'm, again, very grateful for, because not all schools have that kind of spirit, and it means a lot. So now I'd like to tell you a little bit about why you're assembled here today. The Wakefield Memorial High School Alumni Foundation, they've organized an event today and this evening to celebrate and induct 7 graduates, Wakefield High School alumni, into the Alumni Hall of Fame. The Alumni Association is something that you all will be volunteered to join into, maybe at some point after you graduate, in a very short amount of time, couple months. The foundation was formed in 2006 by a group of dedicated alumni, and the foundation works to celebrate our graduates and obviously some of their special accomplishments, but then also support education and all the students of the Wakefield Public Schools. So I'd like to thank them for not only their work, but organizing this event. And we do have some representatives from the Alumni Foundation here. Carol DeJulis, Debbie Pond, Anita Laughlin, and Wendy Dennis. So I don't know, do you all send out like an email or something like that to everybody after they graduate and get them to join up, or just? We'll find you, okay. So keep your eyes open for that. In terms of the Hall of Fame, in 2008, it was started by the Alumni Foundation in an effort to recognize graduates for their exceptional achievements in their profession, or those who have made significant contributions to our school or greater community. And those are the 7 people who are being inducted this year. We've invited them all here today to share some words about their experiences at the high school and how this has helped them in their lives. I'd like to thank them all for being here today with a nice round of applause. And of course, congratulate them for their impending induction to the Hall of Fame. In preparation for today, and we've been talking a little bit with the Alumni Foundation about just town-wide events, how interesting of a town Wakefield is. So I put out an email to our faculty and staff to find out how I would be able to organize a picture of faculty, staff, members who work in this building, whether it's in central office or in the kitchen or in your classrooms, to find out how many people here were actually graduates of Wakefield Memorial High School. And out of like the 115 people that work in this building on a regular basis, over 30 of them are Wakefield High School graduates. That's about a quarter of the amount of people who work here, which is a staggering number for a school. That's something that just doesn't exist. So it's a real credit, I think, to the community as a whole that people want to come back here. It means a lot to me, again, as the principal, to know that there's this connection to the town, and I think you all experience that on a regular basis. You show it when you show up to these events outside of school to support one another, and I'm always impressed by how many graduates come back to support what we do here as a high school, whether it's a performance or some type of sporting event, etc. It really is impressive, and I know you'll still be a member of this community after you graduate. So I'd like to thank you all for being here, and I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Our first inductee is a gentleman by the name of Mr. Ray Girardin, and he is a graduate of the class of 1952, but he's unable to be here. But his cousin, Miss Patricia Maynard, is going to come up and say a few words on his behalf. Miss Patricia Maynard.
Good afternoon. I apologize for my voice, which I'm losing, but I'm going to do my best to get the message across. I'm very happy to be here. I am a graduate of Wakefield High School myself, but I am here today to represent and on behalf of my cousin Ray Girardin, class of 1952, who is receiving the Hall of Fame Award in the arts category. And I hope that he and his wife were very thrilled to receive this honor, and they're very sorry that they could not be here. But I hope that by sharing some of his story, it will encourage some of you who are interested in the arts to pursue your dreams, and maybe to show you how the roots of his career actually started here at Wakefield High. So this is the 1952 Oracle. Can you hear me? Am I holding this right? And this is Ray, and this is what was written about him 64 years ago. Playing one of the leading roles in the senior play, participating in baseball and football, and acting as master of ceremonies in the talent shows, Ray is an excellent example of school spirit. He plans to join the Air Force, but his real ambition is to become successful in show business. May star billing be yours, Ray. Well, after 4 years in the Marines, Ray did begin to take steps to achieve this success in show business. He went to Boston University College of Fine Arts, where he learned his craft and participated in many plays at the college. And then during the summer, he participated and performed at the Cape in summer stock there. After he completed college, he received his equity card from the Charles Playhouse in Boston. And from there he went to New York, and he was able to do some off-Broadway, and that's where he met his wife, Marlene. And this is from an article that was written about him, and after he met his wife, they decided to go to Hollywood. And he said, let's see, after meeting his wife, they decided to give Hollywood a try. It was a good move, he says. Within 6 months, I had a good agent, and I was on a sound stage with Julie Andrews doing a scene in a movie called Star. During the next 30 years, Ray directed, taught acting, and appeared in over 200 films, television shows, and commercials. His numerous television credits represent some of the best shows of the decades: Gunsmoke, Happy Days, Bonnie Miller, Hill Street Blues, Law and Order. He also starred in the films Love Story, Dad, and The Lonely Guy. And he played the role of bad guy Howie Dawson in the soap opera General Hospital. About 10 years, Ray and his wife Molly, about 10 years ago, they retired to the Cape. He still continued to do some acting, and more importantly, he has done a lot of directing at the Academy of Performing Arts Playhouse in Orleans. This was taken from a paper there, and this is one of the plays that he was in at the Cape. It says, veteran film and TV actor Ray Girardin is Al-Yari in the Eventide Arts production of Arthur Miller's A View from the Bridge. So he returned to the Cape, and he was still directing up until about 4 years ago at the age of 77. He began his career in Massachusetts, and he completed his professional career in Massachusetts. He always felt very fortunate to have grown up in Wakefield. He's very proud to be a graduate of Wakefield High School, and receiving this honor really means a lot to him, and he is very grateful. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Maynard. As we move on to the next field, the field of community service, I'd like to invite Ms. Susan Majewski up to the podium. For those of you who don't know, Susan has helped out to organize our town's holiday stroll. So those of you who have participated or gone to enjoy that, she has been a real major part in putting it all together. And she's a graduate of the class of 1959. Ms. Susan Majewski.
Good afternoon, members of the class of 2016. My name is Susan. Can you hear me? I also have a throat problem today. My name is Susan Majewski, class of 1959. I am being inducted into the Wakefield High School Hall of Fame for community service. A small piece of trivia: 1959 was the last year to graduate students from Linfield. Linfield students used to come to Wakefield High School and graduate with us, but 59 was the last year that happened. When I graduated many years ago, there were not many opportunities in high school for volunteering. Oh, there are a few clubs, but no real serious opportunities. Now Wakefield students have so many ways to become involved in their school and community, which now begins at the elementary level. While in high school, many of you have been involved in the Best Buddies program, recycling club, social awareness, diversity, peer leaders, band, drama, sports, and the list goes on. I have seen students collecting food for the food bank in front of grocery stores and working at the food pantry. I've seen you painting windows for the holiday season. I see you involved in the drama club, in the band, and on the athletic field, all representing Wakefield Public Schools. I am part of the event planning committee that organizes the Festival Italia in August and the holiday stroll in December. At the stroll, I see high school students volunteering to help set up and take down for our events, dress up in character costumes, interact with the children, and join in the holiday hat parade. I see members of the band marching in the parade and performing on the plaza steps. You are out there about in the community, and I thank you for your involvement. You now have the opportunity to take your volunteerism into your future. Volunteer in college, in your workplace, wherever you land, get involved, make a difference. Make volunteering a lifelong skill. Good luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you, Ms. Majewski. We'll now move on to the field of education, and many of you should know the likes of this next inductee. Ms. Therese Jaramusic is the assistant principal at the Galvin Middle School and a graduate of the class of 1969.
Well, hello. It's nice to see you all. Seems like we just had moving on, and I was sending you up to the high school, and now you're going to be leaving. I really came to check your straps and see if they were 3 fingers wide, but you're all covered up. Really, truth be known, that was the worst part of my job, was having to enforce that dress code. You think I liked that? No. And you all hated me, I know, but that was my job. So, but anyhow. I am a graduate of the class of 1969. When I was in school, this was the junior high school. We went to elementary school. We didn't go to kindergarten. We went to elementary school grades 1 to 6. Then we came here to the junior high school, grades 7 and 8. Then we went to the old Galvin, and that's where I went to high school. Now, I was a terrible high school student, I have to tell you. I did okay in English, I did okay in social studies. We used to get, you call them progress reports, we called them supplementaries back then. And I got grounded every quarter because my math and science grades were so bad. I really wasn't a good student. I was very shy, I was very bashful. Hard to believe, I think, but I was. I didn't talk in class, I never raised my hand, I never participated. If you asked any of my teachers if I would be in a leadership role now, they would have said, no. Not happening. So I'm here to tell you that life changes. I had a great group of friends in high school. I still have some of those friends. Some of those friends are coming tonight to my induction because I made those friendships. So I would encourage you to stay connected to the people that you are with. and to choose wisely who you're friends with. You know, Oprah, you all know Oprah? She once said that everybody wants to ride in the limo with you. You really want to be with the people that will ride in the bus with you when the limo breaks down. That's really, you know, think about that. You really have to choose well who you want to be with. So I left Wakefield High School, went on to Salem State College. I always wanted to be a teacher since I was little. So off I went to college. There were no teaching jobs when I got out. I had to take a different path. Went to work for state agencies, 3 different state agencies I worked for. And one time I was doing a training in there, and one of them said to me, "Are you like really a teacher? You should just be a teacher." So anyhow, then I started a family and came back to education. Got my master's at Suffolk in administration. Worked in a Catholic school for 11 years, and then came to Wakefield 16 years ago. And I am very happy to be home and back in Wakefield. As Mr. Metropolis was talking about the high school teachers who went to Wakefield High School, we have 25 people at the middle school who are graduates of Wakefield High School. So be proud of that fact in June when I watch you all walk across that stage. You will all be an alumni. I'll tell you a funny story about a colleague of mine who teaches in Wakefield, was in my class, and she was a cheerleader. She was Miss Popularity. She was, you know, she was part of the in crowd, and I had my little group of friends, but I was not part of that in crowd. And about 15 years ago, we were having a class reunion, and she said to me, "Are you going?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going." And she said, "Can I sit with you? Like, I don't really know anybody." I'm thinking, she who was Miss Popularity in high school and I who was nothing have now reversed our roles. So, for those of you for whom high school has not been great, it doesn't matter. When you walk out the door, nobody knows that. Okay? You can go on to do great things. I just do my job every day. I love my job. I loved all of you. And I don't really think I do great things. I do my job every day. I do what I love. And I try and do it to the best of my ability. So I would say to you, your paths may change 5 times before you figure out what you want to do. If you don't figure it out till you're 40, who cares? As long as you are happy. Okay? So my friend Dr. Mullen gave me this little book many years ago. And so I just want to close with a quote. It's from Colin Powell. Do you all know who Colin Powell is? You've heard of him? Yes? Chief of Staff of the military? "To look out at you gives me enormous hope. You look so confident, so strong, so young, so committed, so ready to take on the future, difficult times and all. That's how I feel about you. You are our future. And so go out and do great things, and maybe someday one of you will be standing up here as an inductee. Good to see you all. Thanks."
Thank you so much, Ms. Jeremiasik. I will say that I can't help but agree that what your life is like in high school compared to what your life could be someday is maybe night and day. I think I probably said about 2 words in high school, and I had a lot more hair. I was probably about 2 inches shorter, if you can believe that, and I don't know. I never would have expected in a million years to be standing in front of a group of high school students, whether I was in it or the principal of it at the same time. So it's pretty amazing what can happen. It's just a matter of you believing in yourself and moving on to that next step, and you make a lot of good decisions, you'll end up where it is that you want to go. So I wish you all luck for that. I'd like to bring up our next inductee, Mr. Steve Mayo, who is recognized for the field of government. He is our town administrator and a graduate of the class of 1980. Mr. Mayo.
Around here, we say the great class of 1980. So, a couple of things for you. First, let me tell you what an honor and privilege it is to be here today, meeting here with you. And I know that it's March in your senior year, and it's a Friday afternoon, and some of you kind of have already got those letters or emails telling you what you're going to do next year. Some of you are waiting to see what's going to happen. Some of you don't know, and all that's okay, all that's great. So I do thank you for being here today on a Friday afternoon and listening to us. So what I'd like to do is to drift back in history for a bit. 36 years ago, in this very room, in this very location, was quite different then. I don't know if any of you have seen pictures, but some of us remember being here. It had a bunch of old wooden tables with orange chairs attached to it. It was a lecture hall. The chairs were mainly broken, but we kind of liked it. There was no such thing as a smart board or Wi-Fi in here, but somehow we all survived. And in those days, we learned of our college acceptance by snail mail. Imagine that, you have nothing knowing what's going on, all of a sudden there's a package in the mail. And one afternoon I received my letter from Georgetown University, and I was thrilled. And at that time in 1980, in it was the bill, and all in it was $8,000 for the year. That's room, board, tuition, so I guess that was a little bit better in those days. So what happened is I got my letter, I was thrilled. Now I had really no way to contact my friends. We had a phone. We didn't have a party line, but we did have regular phones. But I was coming here to this room where we were practicing for the senior play. So that's where I got to tell my friends about kind of my story, where it begins. So this room is kind of very special to me. So I do want to talk about what I hope this all means to you, and I want to talk a little bit about connections, as Ms. Jarmusic said, and you do great things every day. I know you do, so believe that. All of our teachers and school administrators do. So I want you to think about this and about your connections. On my first day of law school, was sitting in an assembly much like this, and the dean comes out, and he instructed us to look to our left and to our right at our fellow students. I'm going to ask you to do that right now. Look to your left, look to your right, look at the people sitting next to you. And now I'll tell you what the dean said to us on the first day of law school. He said, take a good look, because when we graduate, one of you won't be here. So a third of you will flunk out. That was the message that they gave us as students. I think it's a little bit different than the message we give you today. So when I say look to your left and look to your right, I want you to think about the connections you've made. The connections that you've made over the last 4 years at WHS. You all shared an amazing number of experiences together. I remember my class and the experiences that we had together, and I still call on that today. You guys have that whole thing going for you right now, and you have senior week coming, senior show coming, graduation coming. So take advantage of that. Don't forget that. Use those connections. And so as I put my thoughts together for today, I was thinking about my classmates and the great litany of warriors, and I love that. Is Mr. O'Leary still here? What a great day to be a warrior. I love that. Fabulous. And you know, when I need some advice, I think about my classmates, the warriors that I went to school with, and I'd like to share to you what some of them have done, some of them that sat in these crappy chairs in the crappy lecture hall in the 80s. One of my classmates, and we kind of mentioned her at lunch today, is a world-renowned environmentalist. So that sounds good. We have a world-renowned environmentalist that graduated in the class of 80. Think about how that connection can help us today. We're doing a study of the Lake Quannapowitt, and what we can do to make that better for next generations. Maybe that's a resource we can look at when we get the study in. One of my classmates is the director of social work for Girls Inc. Think about the issues that we have in the society today, some of the social problems. What a great connection we have that we can count on. One of my classmates, and she's here today, she's president of the Alumni Association. She is an expert on public health. Think about what we can talk to Ms. Laughlin about public health that we need to do. So these connections are important. I have classmates who are businessmen across the country. I can talk to them about budget issues. But many have also stayed right here. There are lawyers in town. Our senior center director is a Wakefield High grad. The director of our DPW, Rick Stinson, is a Wakefield High grad and a member of the Hall of Fame. Our deputy police chief, Wakefield High grad. Our fire chief, Wakefield High grad and member of the Hall of Fame. Teachers, many teachers in this building, as he talked about, guidance counselors, administrators, they have all chosen to stay here to move the next generation forward. What a sacrifice and what a great job. Bank presidents, gas and light supervisors, community organizers and elected official, and town employees, all who make this town a great place to live. That list goes on and on. So I'm going to ask you, don't be shy. Use the connections that you have here and the connections that you have in the community. Nothing makes me happier is when I get a call from a Wakefield High grad. Mr. Mayo, and I hate that, it's Steve. Steve, okay, Steve, and they get a little bit intimidated. I have a problem, or I'm applying for somewhere, can you help me? Absolutely, that's what we love to do. That's what your school administrators love to do. It's what your teachers and guidance counselors love to do. So use that, those connections. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone or send an email, and don't underestimate the power of the written note after you speak to them. I'll tell you, when I get a written note, thank you note in the mail, it means a lot. So remember that. I know it's old school, but remember that. Some of us still are. How many of you have seen the movie Blood Diamond? A lot of you have. Okay? Do you remember there's a scene in Blood Diamond when Leonardo DiCaprio is holding the earth in his hands and he says, TIA, this is Africa? Well, I'll tell you, that's the way many of us feel about Wakefield. So I'll say to you, TIW, this is Wakefield. So let me say a few words about what I think success is. And let me again drift back to 36 years ago. I'm sorry, taking a long time on you. Me as a young man from Wakefield going to Georgetown University, kind of the first one in my family that went away to school. And I think you guys don't think about that today, but even going to Washington, D.C. from Boston was kind of a big thing. You were going away from school. So my parents drove me down in our Chevy Impala, and we pulled up to the dorms, and it seemed that everybody there was pulling up in a Rolls Royce. And I kid you not, Rolls Royces, Bentleys, a lot of wealth down there. We were there in our Chevy Impala. So I kind of had to think about that and soak that in. And as I came around and made some friends, I found out that almost everybody else that was there had gone to a private school. So I'm thinking, how am I going to compete with all these private school guys? And then some of them were pretty snobby about it. But let me tell you something. I remember going into my history class as a freshman that year, and it's the first or maybe the second week of school. There's about 100 people in a lecture hall, maybe about this size, 100, 150 people. And you know how when you go in a lecture hall, you kind of, oh, you guys came in, you don't really want to be in the front row unless you have to. You don't want to be in the back. You kind of want to sneak in the middle where you're not noticed. Well, that's what I did, snuck into the middle where I hope I wasn't noticed. And the professor asked a question. And he called on about 10 people or so, and everybody got it wrong. So I was kind of sitting there, kind of hoping I didn't get called on next. And I did. Well, anyways, as the story goes, and since there's no one to refute it, I'll tell you that the kid from Wakefield that came from public school in the Impala, he got it right, and all the private school kids didn't. So remember, you've been greatly prepared by your teachers. So I say TIW. So that was the kiss on the cheek. And I always like to give a little kick in these things, too. So I think you guys have grown up in what is the most exciting eras in our history. You have the world at your fingertips. You can push a button. You can Google things. You can get primary sources, at a touch of a fingertip. And you think about how different that is from when we were going to school and doing our stuff. You have access to so much information. So much information. And again, this is such an exciting time. But you've all been misled in one respect. And that is, you grew up in an area where everybody got a trophy, everybody was applauded for doing their best, and everyone was applauded for making progress. Well, I'll tell you, in the business world, making progress means you're being put on an improvement plan. So just remember that as you get into the business world. And I think that you've also been misled that you believe that success is a straight line. This is what a lot of you think success is, that it's just it's a gradual climb or a steep climb, and it all works, and nothing wrong is going to happen. Let me tell you, there are many bumps and bruises along the way. Success is not a straight line. And I'll give you a little bit of my story. 10 years ago, I lost a race for state rep. And after all the ballots were counted, a recent Wakefield High School grad, many of you know, his name being Nick Mayo, said, boy, Dad, you really got crushed. Kind of nice to hear from Nick Mayo. I know that some of his friends are out there, so remind him of that. Remind him when it's next time the tuition check is due, so maybe I won't do that. So, at the time, I thought it was such a big setback, but in retrospect, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because it allowed me to pursue what I think is my real passion all along, and that's working with a great team to provide better government services for the people of Wakefield. So when you think about success, it does not look like this. It looks a lot more like this. There'll be a lot of movements and gyrations along the way. So when times get tough, and they will, I'm going to ask you to lean on connections that you've made here during your 4 years at WHS. Lean on us in the community, because we all feel your success is part of the community's success. And just remember, TIW. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. As we move into our next field, the field of science, we have a graduate from the class of 2003, Miss Courtney Shirley.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this great honor. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm going to be echoing some of the same themes that Mrs. Jaramusic and Mr. Mayo just said about connections, coming from the standpoint of someone who in their 30s is entering the job force. Connections are really important, but I'm going to kind of change that up and not just emphasize the importance of the connection with your peers, but also the importance of mentors in your life and keeping those connections throughout your career path too. So I'm going to start by giving you a quick overview of my background, and then I'll kind of go into more depth at each stage. So I graduated from Wakefield High in 2003. From there, I went to Bates College in Maine, where I majored in biochemistry. My senior year of Bates, I was accepted into an umbrella program called Biochemistry, Cellular and Molecular Biology at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. I earned my PhD in pharmacology and molecular sciences there in 2012, and then immediately started postdoctoral research fellowship there in pediatric oncology and hematologic malignancies, which is just a fancy word for blood cancers. I finished up my fellowship towards the end of, or the middle of last year, and then my husband, who I met in graduate school, was recruited by a pharmaceutical company back up into in Cambridge, and that's what brought us here today. So if anyone has any questions about careers in science, I'm so happy to answer those afterwards, because when I was sitting where you guys are right now, I knew that I loved science, but I wasn't really sure kind of what career options were available to me other than being pre-med. And I'm not 100% sure of the statistics these days, but when I was in undergrad, something like half of all science majors were pre-med, but only like 10% of them actually went on to medical school. So there are other options, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. Okay, so jumping back to me, I guess. So again, the same themes of not knowing what you have to do. So I actually don't have a job right now. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I want to do after 8 years of graduate training and 4 years of undergraduate training. I'm starting a family, so I'm just trying to figure things out. And honestly, I'm not really worried about it, because just like everyone has said, you don't need to follow a straight path, and know where you want to be. Where you think you want to be is not necessarily you're going to end up. So, okay, so how many of you feel like you have a mentor at Wakefield High? Maybe like a teacher or a coach or a guidance counselor? Anyone feel like they have that? Oh, that's awesome. I felt like it should be easy for you guys because you probably just finished applying to college and got a lot of letters of recommendation. So that's pretty helpful when it comes to these things. So I'm really happy, and hopefully by the end of hearing my experiences, if you don't have a mentor, you'll seek one out. So is Mr. Beebe here? Is he here? Yeah. Oh, there he is. Okay, so if I would have to say that when I was here in 2003, Mr. Beebe was my mentor. He was definitely one person from my high school experience that really helped shape my career trajectory. I don't think I would be standing here today if it wasn't for you, so thank you. I don't know if you remember, but Mr. Beebe let me take AP Physics as a sophomore. We did that so I could try to get every AP science class in before I graduated, and he jokes that I tried to get him fired. But really, that's the first example of someone who was really advocating on my behalf so that my aspirations could be supported. And, you know, I'm no one special, but where I got to where I am today is because I had a great support group of people who lifted me up and supported me throughout the way, because it is not easy, especially if you guys go to large universities and private schools. The education at Wakefield High is great, but you're going to be with people who are coming from very prestigious private schools, and talk about being like a big fish in a small pond. It kind of hits you, and you really have to surround yourself with people who are going to help you along the way, because it's hard to do it all yourself. And I don't know if this is the case. Are there first-generation college students here? Is anyone the first person to go into college in their family? Okay, so that was pretty common back in 2003. And navigating, you know, my parents had always raised me that going to college was important, but necessarily how to get there was not easy. And so Mr. Beebe, I feel like he always kind of had that idea and plan for me, and kind of kept me on track, whether it, you know, making sure that I kept my grades up, and I was who to ask for letters of recommendation, how to improve my SAT scores, helping with decisions on which undergraduate to attend. He was always a great sounding board and a voice of reason, and it's people like that that will help you make these big decisions that you can't always ask your parents for advice, because they just might not know. So another thing is, I think the teachers in general are great mentors here, even though you might not know it. So I look around at you all sitting here, and I think to myself, your entire senior class is smaller than some of my first-year lectures. And you don't realize how much you take that for granted, to be in a classroom where your teacher knows your name and everyone else's name, and kind of knows your siblings and a little bit of history about you. that doesn't really happen. Bates is a small, I'm sure you guys know, is a small liberal arts school, and they kind of pride themselves on small classes and low student to teacher ratios, but that doesn't really happen until you hit your upper level classes in your junior, senior year. And especially, it might not happen if you're attending like a large university like UMass. So, so that was like a huge difference, and I realized I was outside of my comfort zone, and I kind of was spoiled. I was spoiled by Mr. Beebe kind of taking a one-on-one interest in me, and spoiled by my teachers, and so I realized that my experience was not what I wanted it to be, and I needed to make that change. So I started seeking out the professors and sitting in the front row and raising my hand and answering questions and going to office hours and basically making them know my name, because that's what you have to do. Very rarely you're gonna get into a situation where you walk into a class or a room anymore and your name is gonna be known. And as soon as I did that, my experience changed, and I formed bonds with my professors, and I was easily able to select an undergraduate advisor, which is a huge step in your undergraduate career, and it helped me get to the research path that I am today. And so it's kind of a small story about how that helped. So one of the teachers that I formed a bond with, she was the biochemistry teacher. And my sophomore year, I had to pick a class to or pick a professor to do research with. And I wanted to do it with her because I felt really comfortable for her, and I liked the research that she was doing. And she said to me, Courtney, you know, I know you love biology and that's what you want to do, but you have your whole future to do biology research, and every other student applying to these research institutions are going to have biology research. You know, you should really do something else. And she gave me a suggestion of who she thought I should work with, and someone that would kind of give me one-on-one attention as well. And it was outside of my comfort zone, and I was really nervous, but she said to just trust her, and I did. And it was honestly one of the best decisions I ever made, because I ended up doing chemistry research, and I was able to graduate from a small liberal arts school with 3 first author publications, which is almost unheard of, even coming from a large research university. And if it wasn't for that, I may not have been accepted into Johns Hopkins right from undergrad without, you know, having to take a couple years off to do research in between. And so that's just an example of how a mentor can really support you and push you to do things. And another example kind of outside the field of research. So I kind of took the same approach with my other non-science classes, and you know, and still kind of made it a point to get to know my teachers. And I was in an English class, and we wrote a paper, and I got the grade back, and it just said, "Please see me" on it. And so I went after class to my teacher, and she said, "Courtney, I'm so sorry, I have to give you a C, but I'm going to teach you how to write a paper. I know that you're a biochemistry major. I know you want to be a scientist, but I think that you should learn how to write, write an English paper." And she took the time to work with me once a week, and that was a skill that I was able to take with me throughout too. And if it wasn't for taking the initiative to really get her to know my name, I don't think she would have cared, and she just would have gave me a C, and then I would have been on my way with a C. So anyways, I hope you can see just from my experiences that having a mentor is so important, and you know, all the work doesn't have to be done by you. when you have a really good support group around you. And you guys are so lucky because also, like Mr. Mayo said, you have so much social media. You have Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, and those didn't exist until I was a junior in college. So I urge you to say thank you to your mentors and people who are important in your life, and keep in touch with them, keep in contact with them, because you'll never know when you might come across a really big decision or a crossroads in your life and you just want to ask them a question, or you're looking for a job and you want to find someone who has a connection of some way. You just never know. And those are the people who you're going to look back and thank and be really, really grateful that you've had in your life. So anyways, thank you again, and I appreciate you giving me the time.
Thank you so much, Courtney. Mr. Beebe, also a Wakefield Memorial High School Alumni Foundation Hall of Fame winner. So, just something to point out. Last but not least, I'd like to introduce from the class of 1976, someone who you all know, Mr. David Butler, who is our head custodian here at Wakefield Memorial High School.
I'm not great at making speeches, but I'd like to say you're the 40th graduating class I've seen leave here. I started out as the lab aide for the science department. I did that for 5 years. When that job was cut, I moved over to the custodial. I was on second shift, third shift, and now I'm on the day as the head custodian here. And I've met a lot of interesting people and staff going through here. And a special thanks and recognition to Mr. O'Leary. He made life interesting in here. I don't have much to say, so I'd like to thank you for being here. It's an honor. This is something I never expected would happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Mr. David Butler, everybody. I can't say enough, obviously, about the hard work that Mr. Butler and his staff puts in on a daily basis. I know we've obviously just had an assembly in order to thank him and welcome, give him well wishes for being inducted into the Alumni Hall of Fame. But anytime you get the chance to thank Mr. Butler or any members of his staff, they really appreciate it, because they know how much you appreciate them and the work that they do. Before I bring up everybody actually to have some questions, if there are any out there, I would like to just touch on a couple of points that I heard today, which I thought were really, really poignant for all of you. And that is that all of us, or any of us that are being inducted, or any of you all that are being inducted, any adults here, whether they're faculty members or what have you, we're all in your shoes. And you may pick up what it is that we're trying to say, or what everyone else has been trying to say over the past hour or so, or you might not. And we'll see what happens. Basically, what I've picked up from this experience is that life is a series of starts. All right, so you've just coming to the close of your last start, which was your 4 years of high school, but there'll be many, many more. Research nowadays shows that most people will have anywhere from 5 to 8 different careers. And that's not just jobs, that's careers. So if I look back on my life, I've actually already had 3, which is shocking to me, because I expected to probably have 1 if I was lucky. So to think about having 5 to 8 careers, that's 5 to 8 starts that are pretty life-changing, life-altering, and they're things that you have to deal with. And in those situations, dealing with them can be pretty lonely. It's much different than being in high school, and to have you all here together like this, you only have this chance for a couple more months. And as Courtney said, you're going to be in situations where you're in lecture halls with maybe 300 people, or you're in work environments when you're in a cubicle and you don't have people around you, and you don't necessarily interact with too many people like you would on a daily basis in school. So it can be a little bit of a lonely experience. You will start possibly to have a family. You will start to move somewhere else around the country or around the world. All of those starts, again, can be lonely. So please, reach out to each other, have that connection. You all are part of an elite group, Wakefield Memorial High School Warriors, as Mr. Mayo said, and you'll all be graduates soon. So you'll have that, not just the alumni network from the class of 2016, but the class before and the class after, and maybe years before and after beyond that. So I would like to invite all of our inductees up to the podium area and then have any of you answer any questions. The lights are a little bright, so maybe if we could just raise our hands and see if we could point out. And if you wanted to stand to ask your question, that's fine. We'll pass the mic around and go from there. Are there any questions? We have a lot of different fields up here represented, and I'm sure if I were to pass the mic around, there'd be plenty of other additional pieces of information, gems of wisdom that people could give out. Quick question, short question, long question? Not one question?
Go. Fabulous. Couldn't be better. Nice to see you, Rose. You have to know, Rose spent a little time in my office. She did, but you know what? Those of you who spent a lot of time, not so much this class, in past, those are the people that come back to visit me. I love when I sit at graduation. And those of you who had a little rough time in middle school, and I watched you walk across that stage as successes, nothing makes me happier, really. It's so good to see you, all of you. But I'm great. Thanks for asking. We didn't have a senior show. We didn't have senior shows. That's how old we are.
We did Bye Bye Birdie.
Anyone else? We did Grease.
Well, my cousin in 1952 was in Our Miss Brooks, was the name of the senior show.
Describing your freshman year in college. Anyone want to take that one?
I wanted to quit school. Truly, at the end of freshman year, I said to my mother, I quit. She said, no, not happening. She made me go, thank goodness, because where would I be today if she hadn't? But it was not easy. It wasn't easy, so don't get discouraged.
I was very impressed with how much wealth there was out there. I mean, I'm not lying when I said Rolls Royce after Rolls Royce and blondes getting out, each one more beautiful than the next. The other thing was is that I went to school in Washington, D.C. The drinking age was 18 years old. That was very different. But what Courtney said, classes are huge. in your freshman year. And I think maybe in some programs, not maybe nursing, it's a little bit, but your freshman lecture classes, you go through your whole high school and middle school and elementary career, and they talk about gotta keep class sizes down, class sizes down, class sizes down. You get to college and what? There's 100, 200 people in a lecture. So what Courtney said was right. At that level, if you're not gonna seek the professor out, they won't know who you are.
I was a commuter to college in Boston, and commuters were kind of frowned upon. We didn't live in the dorm. We weren't in the in crowd. But as the months went on, I found friends in other schools and broadened my database.
It was a lot of work for a science major. I was really jealous of my friends who were English majors. And I just had to work really, really, really hard to keep up with the kids around me.
Again, speaking for my cousin, I know when he went into BU for his first interview, he thought that maybe he should go into business. That's what his dad told him was more practical. And he happened to mention to the person interviewing him that he really was interested in acting. And he said, well, we have a really good new dramatic school if you'd like to try that. So he went home and talked to his parents, and his mother said, yes, I think you would be a great actor. So that turned him around, and as Courtney was mentioning about certain mentors that give you that encouragement, and this person he interviewed with did give him that encouragement to go into something that he really was interested in.
Take a few minutes. Favorite high school memory?
I gotta say the senior show. I think the senior show, wouldn't you say that the senior play and the whole class coming together and the parties after, would my fellow 80 members say same? High school memory? High school. Can you repeat it?
Were any of you set on a certain major in high school and then changed your minds when you got to college?
So I was 100% sure I was going to be a medical doctor, as I'm sure a lot of you sitting here probably are too. And like I said before, not a lot of people actually go on to do that. But I will say out of my 3 roommates, no one majored in what they thought they were going to do as well.
I was actually an international economics major in college, and I always thought I'd go work for the World Bank or something like that, so can see how things change from what happens.
When I was in high school, there were 5 options for women. You could be a nurse, an airline stewardess, a secretary, a hairdresser, or a teacher. So there were not many options to think about, so I became a secretary.
And I mentioned to you how my cousin, well, in his yearbook it said he wanted to go into acting, and that's what he ended up doing. And just for myself, I did graduate from Wakefield High, and in my yearbook it says I would be an elementary teacher, and I was an elementary teacher, so I followed through on that.
Sarah?
When and what point did you decide to make the path to pursue your career in government, and did you ever see yourself coming back to Wakefield?
Can you repeat the second half?
Did you ever see yourself coming back to Wakefield to do that?
Well, I really never left, so. I would say I really enjoyed how government works, how you can really bring together people and you can kind of put policy together to make things work. Probably as early as my late 20s, So I think, what is that now? 30 years ago now? So, yeah, I think but it was a transition. I was a banker, I was a lawyer, I am still a lawyer, although I'm practiced, but kind of all those things culminated together, and I think what for me, I take different parts of all of that in my job, whether it was, economics, certainly, in running the budget, law, looking at some legal things that come down from the state. So I think all those things that come together, sociology, I wish I had taken more psychology and sociology courses in college. So if you have those electives, maybe take something that's outside of your major. I mean, I took a lot of finance and economics, but really in my job today, more psychology would have been much better. I'll let you think about why.
If you could change one thing from your high school career, what would it be?
You can change one thing.
I would study interior design. That's what I love, designing and decorating and creating. I'm very creative.
I think I would have liked to look into taking more music lessons. I love music, and I never really developed any musical talents. I think I might have liked to do that.
What color captain? I am sworn to secrecy on that one.
Probably the same color as my face after that question, I bet. I will say, one of the things that you have to think about, in this setting, which is not the easiest thing in the world, and just from my own personal experience in high school, I would be much more comfortable sitting where you are than standing up here. I know that many of you would feel very comfortable up here, but some of you are very happy sitting where you are. So I'd like to give one last round of applause for all of these people being up here tonight. It is not an easy experience. Being up here talking about your life in high school, it could be something that you'd never expect to do. However, some of you might be in those positions in the future where you have something of true impact and circumstance where the Alumni Foundation would want to honor you. But also just being involved, I think that's a key piece to some of the Hall of Fame inductees. And I wish you all the best as you achieve your goals in the future, and remember your connection to Wakefield. I'd like to introduce Anita again. She'd like to put in a plug for the Alumni Foundation.
Hi, my name is Anita Laughlin. I'm class of 1980 with Steve. I'm the new president of the Alumni Association. I just want to echo a word that you all heard here with all of them, is it's a network. And that's the thing they really don't teach you in high school, they don't really teach you in college. Maybe if you had a parent that was in business, you heard it before, but it's not social network, it's the network of who people. When I left high school, Wakefield wasn't big enough for me. I wanted to go out in the world. I went all the way to Africa, and who did I meet there? An alumni, a pediatrician who graduated a few years ahead of me. And I hear she put a good word in for me to get my job. I didn't ask her to, but it was the network. It's important. So the Alumni Association and the Wakefield alumni, whether you go to college, you go to business, you're gonna start something right out of school, it's the people who help you get a loan, the network you're gonna have, the people and the contacts you meet. Never forget, Wakefield is one of those towns that like the people who come from Wakefield. So keep up your network. I'm here for a short time before I go out in the world again. So we'll be drafting you into the Alumni Association. Thank you.
Any last closing comments? Thank you all so much. As I said before we started, there was going to be a way to somehow organize all of you who are in your t-shirts to take a photo, and I know Jess talked about it earlier today in my office. I don't know if Shannon's here, but Jess, if you want to come down and help organize, that could be good. Just to be with everybody.